Welcome in to the Energy Tech Podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Perry, along with Mike Flores. And today, we are pleased to bring you the very first episode of the Energy Tech Podcast presented by OpSite Energy.
That's right, Jeff. And that's here on the podcast where we focus on topics related to automation, data integration, structuring of data, AI, and machine learning for the energy industry is our target.
Yeah, so grab a coffee or whatever powers you up this morning, and let's talk about what OpSite Energy is all about.
Awesome. So let's kind of kick this off a little bit and start with the big question, Jeff. What exactly is OpSite Energy?
So that's a great question, Mike. So OpSite Energy was really born from a group of folks, collective experience in the energy sector. And for years, we really noticed that there was a ton of inefficiencies in how data was being collected, utilized, if it was monitored at all, and especially how it was acted on. So we knew there had to be a better way to empower operators with technology, and that's kind of where we decided to create a company focused on tailored solutions for the unique challenges that our clients face in the energy sector.
Well, that sounds good, Jeff. And you said a lot, but let me ask it this way, because I obviously, to get this thing kicked off, there was an aha moment for you, and you're going to talk a little bit about how that affected us. But give me that aha moment. What drove this to actually start OpSite Energy and kick this off?
Yeah, so I think to kind of get to that moment, Mike, if we got to look back, almost in more than a decade now. I know when we met, I think it was 2014. 2014 was a great time in the energy industry, especially if you were in the Eagle Ford Shale. I think realized prices on WTI was like $110 a barrel, something like that. And the operator that we were working for was, the biggest onshore oil producer in the lower 48, and they were blowing and going. 600 wells drilled a year, 250 common tank batteries built a year, 300 miles of flow line every year, 300 to 400 miles of gathering system. And we had it really good there, man, from an automation data perspective. When we decided to jump in and build a control room for that operator, which prompted by, a big 60-mile long pipe that was moving about 180,000 barrels a day, which, in back in those days was $25-30 million a day. So it was definitely a project that they were cutting the middleman out, moving their oil right into the back door of a refinery there in South Texas. But, we had it really, really good there, and when we started asking questions and looking at, the alarm data and things like that, it was like, man, they could produce it super fast. And it was like, at some point we realized like, well, no one's really looking at this data. Like, you've got all these great data, you got great comms, you get all this automation field equipment. I mean, literally premier automation operator in the Eagle Ford and really maybe in the entire lower 48, if not the world as far as shale gas goes. And they really weren't utilizing that data for anything. And it's like, wow, once we got our hands on it, to me, that was an aha moment. Like, if EOG or if this company is number one as far as all these things, the Apple of the oil field, you name it, but it's like they're not even using the data to their advantage. I wonder how many other operators are. And lo and behold, when you look around, that's still the case even to this day. Aha moment really kind of comes back into 2024 where, you see the same sort of things happening in a vacuum. When you go to these operators, you go to this operator, we go to this operator, we go work here, I consult here, and it's like, hey guys, these all have the same problems, and they're really leaving a lot of money on the table by not getting into the data.
So Jeff, so the way you're saying this is, number one, we were already working for an operator, a producer that was considered the Apple of the industry in writing. This was a top performing producer in not just where we were in the Eagle Ford, but in other areas. So they were industry first in a lot of things. So that's a lot of pressure to come in and say, hey, you're doing things great, but how do you do it better? And I think the way you're saying, and I know that we saw this aha moment, is we didn't just see them doing things great, but we said, you can do it better. And the better started with the data. And so you hit on three main things. That was data, whether it comes in on production, data that comes in on the plant at the plant level, the pipeline level, operationally. So I think what you're alluding to is this is the birth of OpSite Energy for insights that were operational, and it required the data sets that were great, but they weren't better.
Yeah, and so, the name OpSite Energy in itself kind of reflects our approach to operations, and that we strive to achieve credible insights and leverage data to really make the best decision possible in every given case.
Right. So let's kind of move here on, kind of set the stage a little bit. Um, the biggest challenges, you kind of touched on a few of those, but let's kind of look at a few of the recurring themes that happen in energy. Not and maybe we pick on this producer, maybe we don't, but let's kind of pick on a few of those, and maybe talk a little bit about them. When I think about them, I start with reliance and manual oversight as being a big thing, regardless of whether you're a small producer or you're the Apple of the industry, right?
Right. Yeah. So you see that. I mean, even in companies that have advanced control rooms or control rooms that are matured, so to speak, or been in place for years, you still have a ton of manual oversight, a manual intervention, which ultimately leads to inefficiencies. Right. So, one of the problems we want to solve there is take the manual processes out. Of course, we're going to be working with AI and machine learning and things like that to kind of steer people in the right direction. But ultimately, I don't envision control rooms 10, 20 years from now having a ton of manual intervention on valves, things like that.
Right. And so that is one topic, is the manual intervention, and I think that kind of breeds a delayed response in equipment automation. Yeah, it's automated, but at the same time, you're relying on a person per se to do that, right? So you're really trying to leverage a person. When you start involving machine learning or artificial intelligence at any level, really what you're doing is turning a 1x body into a 5x opportunity, right? To kind of leverage that operational growth. So that's one area, but let's pick on another one. Where do you see that going? Not just with a person, but what about like equipment anomalies, or things where it puts us in a predictive state? Is that kind of something that is a challenge for the energy industry
It
too?
definitely is. In one of our goals, or one of our, visions here is to accomplish kind of control room technology that does combine real-time data with intelligent alerts, allowing operators to address these issues immediately. And it really kind of starts with looking at and imagining, like an oil well. Let's think about an oil well. It starts to show signs of declining performance.
Right.
The system would go in there and flag the issue, and predict when it might fail. Maybe it's a rod pump well. Maybe it's, hey, you're not tuned right on a plunger. Maybe you need a little more gas down the backside on a gas lift well. You name it. But giving the operator time to fix that before it becomes a costly problem, or before they're just not producing at the full well stream value.
So I think, how does OpSite step in to solve some of these problems, right? Because, all right, if you've got operational issues, you want to get predictive, you want to delay, you want to increase or enhance the response, you want to add these things. How, how does OpSite do that? How does OpSite solve these problems
So
in your
it's it's
mind?
it's it's one, we use machine learning, we use AI to kind of look at what the current status of the system is. What is the alarm rate? What types of alarms are coming in? Are they critical alarms? Are they non-critical alarms? Are they really alerts? Are they messages? Are we losing? Can we not see the forest because of the tree, right? Type of thing. The tree's there, and how do we dive back? So one, it just starts with like kind of looking at data, and understanding what that data is telling us, understanding it, why the operator wanted that data in the first place, what it's telling them, what's important to them, and then, but when we're talking about wells in general, just on the production side, not midstream as much. We're looking at performance of the well, right? And of
Right.
course, we're looking at performance on midstream and things like that as well. But you know, the well performance is the key to unlocking the big time bucks, at least for clients that are on the production side. On the midstream side, we're looking at tuning plants, we're looking at better recoveries, all these sort of things. But it all starts with the data.
Right. So data's at the helm of what we're doing. So just to I think to kind of bring clarity to OpSite Energy, I think what you and I are talking about is what our catch is, which is insight driven remote optimization anywhere in the value chain of energy.
That's
So,
correct.
right? So,
Right.
in that value chain, regardless of whether you're starting at drilling, you're moving into completions where we saw success. Once you move into a flowback stage and you start a producing well that has life to it, and then from there on the downstream side or in the midstream level on pipeline and takeaways into markets and then into refinery operations and into process and treatment, what we're essentially saying is OpSite has the capability to bring AI, machine learning, enhanced data optimization to those types of value chains that aren't seen yet. And I think we're at the cusp of that right now
Yeah,
for
and
AI.
the exciting thing about OpSite is the partnerships that we have and the players involved in those partnerships. So, we're partnered with a high-level automation company that can kind of perform things quickly for us, develop things quickly for us. We're partnered with, a Fortune 500 E&P company that is allowing us, to really get deep into their stuff and kind of be the guinea pig, so to speak, on what we're trying to do here. And then we've got other partners in it, on our board of people who just have great connections. Hopefully we'll have some of those on later shows for sure to talk about their experience. But as far as energy technology goes, I mean, we got to be one of the strongest boards out there, at least in this space, that offers remote solutions as well as, other solutions that are not remote.
Yeah, and so I think one of the key things, and I think also as a differentiator for OpSite Energy, isn't just about those things in the value chain, but you also have what I call a team of experts,
Right.
right? So you've got some expertise that comes to you that translates field activity or actual field experience and couples that with AI, machine learning, and data analytics. So what you've got is a team of people that bring their expertise together. And so what you just said was, hey, in that team I know you and I are supporting the OpSite Energy piece for our client, but what else is behind the scenes for that?
So, there's a lot of projects. We're looking into quite a few things. I'm not sure I want to dive super deep into everything OpSite Energy is. Obviously, we got a podcast here. We're going to be giving you episode after episode, kind of diving into deep. But maybe we set the stage here for like what this podcast is about, Mike, and what it looks like. So, what can our listeners expect in the future episodes?
I think in my mind, we're going to target a few things. And the first one that always comes to mind is field automation, because that's the problem solving piece. Yeah, you've got a lot of great data. Just like a lot of organizations, they have them sitting, whether it's in the cloud or even their relative data swamp right now. But we want to target things that touch field automation, HMI design, cloud-based solutions that we can offer for operations that kind of gives us more insight, and then as well as different key IoT automation products and solutions that kind of interjoin and drive this whole thing that makes up not just OpSite, but the industry as a whole.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think we're looking at a gold mine of information. If you're a listener, this is our first episode, but we've got quite a few coming down the hike, and we've got some really great guests that'll be coming in as well. Subject matter experts. I know we talked about doing some podcasts directly related to CRM, a series, and bringing in some PHMSA auditor type folks. Also diving deep into demystifying what is CRM and why do I need this consultant to charge me 150 grand a year type of thing, or maybe even more depending on who you are. And really, this stuff is not hard, guys. Honestly, I made a career of pretending it was hard and scary and all those. In fact, that first control room we got was because I was in charge of regulatory, right, and integrity. And the whole plan for those guys, is 180,000 barrel a day, just right into the Three Rivers refinery. Hey, we need marketing group running this. And, as soon as I was like, well, wait a minute, that's a regulated control room. Here's what it means for you to comply with CRM. Those guys kind of exited stage left real quick, which gave us our real first opportunity to kind of dive in. And, again, with that past client, after we set up the midstream environment, it was like, oh, wow, like we can use all these same like basic methodologies to rationalize alarms on the production side. And that's kind of where we went. Now we're at phase, let's call it 3 or 4 down the road, where it's, we've visited that control room 10 years later. Yeah, they're saving a ton of money. I think total value on that control room over 10 years is close to $200 million in prevented downtime, et cetera, in the Eagle Ford alone. But visiting them, I was a little upset that literally nothing had changed. I mean, it was the same thing that we set up. When I think we left, I went over to Apache in 2017, but what we had set up there in 2014, 2015, same SCADA screen, same methodology. We're diagnosing wells the same way, and it's like, gosh, that was almost like walking into a timestamp in my life. Like, that's great. I was hoping to see a lot more great things from, again, a premier technology integrator in the space. But that simply wasn't the case, which tells me that there was an opportunity for OpSite to kind of do these sort of things with people who are SMEs, with people who have spent lengthy amounts of time in field operations and kind of can connect the dots on the technology side as well.
Yeah, and I think if for OpSite to be successful and for our listeners to capture something, if you're a viewer, you catch this on YouTube, or you're a listener, if you tune in, it's because you want something out of it. I think the promise from OpSite is to give you a takeaway of something. It's not just a past victory, but we want someone that fits the shoes of an automation engineer, a production engineer, the I&E superintendent that's looking for something, a director that wants to connect the dots between business and what's happening in the field. So we want to take, if you're that kind of listener, an engineering team member, or you're someone that wants to bring that together, we want your feedback, which means for us to be successful and for you to hear some great things, submit your questions. We want to take on problem-solving questions, take those topics. We want to challenge them as part of the podcast and kind of bring a community together, right? So
Right.
it's not just taking, hey, this happened at X company. This is what's happening right now. How can we take who you are? You give us a topic, and of course the like button always helps, but we really are looking for your comments, right?
That's right.
Give us
Yeah.
your feedback. Man.
Our whole goal here is not to grow an audience of people who kind of come and go. We want the guys that are really interested in stuff, who are true nerds like yourself and myself, and that really get into this stuff. So I'm super excited about the podcast, guys. We're getting ready to roll out 10 to 20 episodes, and when we launch this company, and that's really about all we got today for the opening. Mike, any final closure here?
Hey man, we're excited to bring on listeners and viewers. You obviously have operators that are out there that want to tune in. We want to give you something that has a takeaway for you. So don't forget to go follow us on LinkedIn. Join the podcast. We're going to have a community group. We're going to offer training materials. We're going to offer a way for you to demystify some of your operational challenges that you have. And we want to bring in a range of experts to give you a solution, so you're not just listening to X minutes of something, but we want you to take away from this podcast here at OpSite Energy.
That's right, Mike. And appreciate you guys joining us in today. Till next time, we'll see you soon.